everyone. Wow, that was loud. Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be doing the if I could only keep one palette from each brand, which palette would that be? Sort of tag thingy. I saw Caitlin House do this video and I was like, yo, I want to try that. So props to her for doing this video first, but I'm so excited. So I went through some of the brands that I have. I didn't go through all because I got a lot of eyeshadow palettes, but I went through like most of the brands that I use the most out of, and I chose one palette from each, which was not easy for some, but I did it. So we're gonna talk through them and I'll explain why I chose what I chose. So I literally have a pile here. We're gonna ignore my hair because it's a bad hair day. And yeah, so we're gonna get into it. So the first palette I have is from Lime Crime. So the palette that I would keep from Lime Crime, wow, if I could speak today, that'd be lovely. The palette is the Venus Immortalis palette. I love this little palette so much. It may be little, but it packs a punch. It is little but mighty. I really, really love this palette. I love doing dark, grungy vibes with this palette. I love doing like a really dark vibe with like a pop of neon on the inner corner, and this is the perfect palette for that. Like the shimmers are so pigmented in this palette, and I just really, really love this palette. So that is why I would choose that palette. Next we have Melt Cosmetics, and the palette that I chose, which honestly it was really difficult for me to choose because I have enough palettes from them that I was like, oh my god, what palette should I choose? But the palette that I get the most use out of and the palette that I really, really love the most, even more than the Murthe palette, is the 420 palette. I don't know why, but there's just something about all of these vibes in this palette that just speaks to me on a spiritual level. I love this palette so much. It is one of my favorites. I did a look with it recently, so maybe that's why I chose it too, because it performs amazing and I'm just in love with this. I haven't gotten anything new from Melt Cosmetics since this palette, but this palette is everything for me, so that is why I would choose that. We have BH Cosmetics, which I love BH Cosmetics. I have so many palettes from them, so this was really, 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 really tough. But I decided on a palette, and that is the Los Angeles palette, the Lost in Los Angeles palette. It's a 16 color eyeshadow palette, and it looks like this. Honestly, the vibes in here are just my type of vibes, and I know that this is a palette that I use the most from them. I really, really love like the pastel vibes, the bright vibes. The shimmers in here are amazing. Like they are literally stunning. I love them so much. So that is why I chose this palette. It's just my favorite from them. Another difficult brand to choose from was Juvia'S Place. I love Juvia'S Place eyeshadows. I have a ton of palettes from them, so when I was choosing, I had to think about which palette I love the most, and the palette I love the most is the limited edition La Mariposa palette. This palette was just so cute. I don't really, their glitters are the best pressed glitters I've ever tried, but I don't really use pressed glitters. But the rest of this palette is amazing. I love that I can do a single look with this palette. I love that it's bright and fun, and even the brown is like a fun brown, which I am in love with. So this is a palette that I would forever keep in my collection if I had to get rid of all my Juvia'S Place eyeshadow palettes. I just love it so much. Next we have Odin's Eye, and for Odin's Eye it was kind of an easy pick for me. I just really love the Hella palette by Angelica and Odin's Eye, which looks like this. I'm so glad I was able to pick this up. It is just such a beautiful palette. Fingers crossed I can get the Christmas palette. Thanks, bro. I'm really hoping I can get the Christmas palette from them before it sells out forever, because I really want that palette. But we got this one and it is stunning. I love the greeny grungy vibes, which as you guys can tell, I love like greeny tones, but then I also really love like the pinks. I think this vibe together is just everything I could ever want. For Menagerie Cosmetics, I chose the Serenity palette, which was in collaboration with Annette's Makeup Corner. This is just my all-time favorite palette from Menagerie Cosmetics. I have to hold it weird because my one shadow broke when I got it, but I just repressed it and it was all good. The shimmers in here are amazing. The mattes are amazing. The matte pink is probably the one I'm gonna hit pan on the soonest, which makes me so sad. I need a dupe of that because it is everything. I love using it as like a really hot pink blush, or I love using it as eyeshadow. This palette is just everything to me. I love the whole aesthetic. It is just stunning. Ignore me sweating. I just sweat a lot, okay? It's a part of my chronic condition. Next, we have Kaleidos, which Kaleidos makeup has some really good palettes, so I was like, oh my god, what palette? I had to look between two palettes, and it was between Flower Punk and Club Nebula. And I looked at them both, and then I looked at Club Nebula, and I was like, okay, that is it. This is just such a beautiful palette. It was limited edition, but this is the palette that I needed in my life. You got fun bright shades, you got fun shimmers, you got grungy vibes. I mean, it is a perfect cup of tea for me. For Clarity Cosmetics, it was really easy because I only own one palette from them, the Magic Lamp palette, which is really, really stunning. Even if I had other palettes from them, this would be the palette I choose because I just love the shimmers in this palette. The mattes are okay, but I personally really, really love the shimmers. They are a vibe, and I think that they're fun. Glamlight. Glamlight was another brand where I was like, oh my god, I do not know what I want to choose because I love the Ice Cream Dream palette, I love the Michaela palette, but in the end I decided on the very first Michaela palette because this, I just opened it and I was like, okay, yes, because of the shimmers in here, like the green shimmer, the purple shimmer, the mattes in here. It is just everything to me, and I am obsessed, and I get the most use out of this palette. Ice Cream Dream is a really close second, though, but this palette just has more to offer for me, and I am just utterly obsessed with it. And yeah, I still really love it, and it's my favorite Glamlight palette. How I wish I could afford the Scooby-Doo collection, because it's affordable, but that shipping is $20 US, and your girl does not have $20 US for shipping. For Nomad Cosmetics, it was actually really difficult because I have a few Nomad palettes and I love all of them, but I chose the newer Nomad palette because this is just such a vibe for me, which is kind of, I keep saying that a lot, but it's true. Like, this is just such a nice fall palette in my opinion because, like, yes, you have like springy vibes, you have summery vibes, but then you have these darker colors that really, like, you could do lots with, which is what I really, really like. I love that they do different destinations, but this one is my favorite so far. I am very interested in their fall palette that came out, and I think that that would probably beat it, but, you know, that's just how it is. There's so many makeup products I want. The last two brands are really simple because I only have one palette from them. For Blend Bunny Cosmetics, if you're new here, you won't know, but if you are not new here, you'd probably guess which palette. It is the Surge palette because I use this in almost every look I do. It is kind of insane, but I am absolutely in love with this palette. I love the shimmers, I love the mattes, I love the brights, I love the grungy tones. I just love everything about this palette, so it just makes me happy, and it's one of those palettes that I know I'm gonna get a lot of use out of. And then for Bella Beauty Bar, the only palette I have from them is the Celestial Garden palette, which is like a masterpiece in itself. I would love the Strange and Unusual palette. I really hope I can get my hands on it. Really, really hope I can save up enough money for it because I love the formula in this palette, so I can only imagine how much I would love that palette. But this one is just such beautiful springy summer vibes, and then you have these like darker colors. Like today I used this palette and I did a dark fun vibe, and I am obsessed with that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you subscribe, comment down below any videos you'd like to see me do. Go follow my Instagram and TikTok, Makeup by Tasha XO, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.